Every year, every year we get to do Yom Kippur. And as you do, you go back to the original time of Yom Kippur, the moment when the Kohen Gadol would walk into the Kodesh Hakadoshem on Yom Kippur. And you get to experience this moment where he enters into the Kodesh Hakadoshem, and that becomes the center of what the whole davening is about, and the whole Yom Kippur is about that. It's that moment of Lifnei Hashem Titaru. When you enter before God, you actually become pure. We reenact the whole setting. We actually create the avodah of Yom Kippur. The central moment of Yom Kippur is the avodah, at which point we walk in with the Kohen Gadol and we bow down, we do the Kohanim, the and as we listen to the Kohen Gadol repeating, and he says the name of Hashem, and as he does so, we walk in together with him, and we actually bow down on the ground, and we contemplate and we think about what is going on at that moment. What I want to take a look at is when the Kohen Gadol walked into the Kodesh HaKodashim, what he in fact would do is, there was an avodah called the Ketores. What was the Kohen Gadol doing? He walked in 4 times. Okay? So he walks in like this. He goes on, there was a Mizbeach HaKetores, which was before the Kodesh HaKodashim. There's a place called the Kodesh. Over there, the Kohen Gadol walks into this place. He takes a pan, and in it he puts the Hakadoshem, the 11 ingredients of the Ketores, puts them all in, and with that he walks and he enters into the Kodesh HaKodashim. When he comes inside, there was a spice called Male Osham, dedicated only on Yom Kippur, and this Male Osham caused the entire room in the Kodesh HaKodashim to smoke up. The basic reason he would do that is because the Shechina would appear on top of the Aron, and lest he behold the Shechina, so the room was smoked up, so he couldn't actually see, because you're not allowed to look at the Shechina. Why is it so important? What's so central about the smoke of the Ketores in the Kodesh HaKodashim? He walks into the Kodesh HaKodashim, and what does he do? He puts up smoke, and the smoke rises inside in the Holy of Holies. Why is that so central? What does it mean? Every one of these details of what the Kohen Gadol was doing is important for us to understand in life, in our life, where we need to change how we should become different people. Herein lies the central point of what Yom Kippur is about, and thereby what the heart of Judaism is. Somehow, the Kohen Gadol entering with the Ketores, entering into the Kodesh HaKodashim. If we are to understand this, let's go back and take a look at this avodah of Ketores. Now, if you daven every day, and I hope you do, Shachris and Mincha, and if you do the full version, if you have the time, you'll discover that before Shachris and before Mincha, there's a part called Korbanos. The Korbanos is when you actually reenact all the sacrifices that were offered in the Beis HaMikdash. Now those Korbanos, right in the middle of it, you say, Tana Rabbanan, Pitum HaKetores Ketzad. The fattening of the Ketores, what do they do? And we discuss exactly how the Ketores worked. The Ketores had these 11 Achadasas Amanim Yuva, how it worked in Yom Kippur, Shloisha Amanim Yisayrim. Those details are described in the Ketores that we say every single day in davening. We actually repeat at the end of davening. We say also Pitum HaKetores Ketzad. In Nusach Sfarad, Nusach Hari, you say Pitum HaKetores Ketzad, and you repeat that part about how the Ketores was made. You're not allowed to make Ketores today. You're not allowed to repeat to reenact the same Ketores the way it was. That Ketores was saved only for the time of the Beis HaMikdash. What's so special about the avodah of Ketores? What do they do? Well, aside from what we just discussed, the Kohen Gadol bringing the Ketores on Yom Kippur, the Ketores was actually offered every single day, morning and evening, which is why by Shachris and by Mincha we say it. So what do? They would go to the Mizbeach HaKetores, So again, there's Kodesh Hakadoshem over here. That's where the Kohen Gadol walks in with the Ketores on Yom Kippur. Then there's the Avodah in the Kodesh, which is the part before that. Over there they would have the Mizbeach HaKetores. Just to refresh our minds, there's two Mizbeachs, two Mizbachos. One is all the way out. That's called Mizbeach, the Mizbeach HaChitzim. That's the Mizbeach that we mainly discuss. That's the one with all the Korbanos. But when you walk all the way in the Ulam and the Heichal, all the way inside, into the Kodesh, right there, not too far from the Kodesh HaKadoshim, that's where you had the Mizbeach HaKetores. Every day, a Kohen would come in, any Kohen could come in, and he would do the Avodah of the Ketores. It would cause this tremendously beautiful smell all over in the Beis HaMikdash. That was the Avodah of the Ketores. Why would they do the Ketores? What was the reason for it? So the Rambam, Maimonides, gives us an explanation. But let me preface the explanation with this. The Rambam wrote a bunch of works. His magnum opus is, of course, the Yad HaChazaka. That Yad HaChazaka itself had a ripple effect in Klal Yisrael. The Rambam writes that work is the only other work that you need besides the Chumash. It's called Mishneh Torah. So there's Torah, and there's the second to the Torah. The Rambam says you don't need any other essay in the world besides the Tanakh and the Rambam and Mishneh Torah. And you can imagine that many Gedolei Yisrael were very upset about this, didn't like it at all. In fact, they had the Rambam burnt publicly. Rabbeinu Yoina amongst them, great Gedolei Yisrael. One of the reasons also was because the Rambam never cited any footnotes, no sources, because you don't need any other book, right? You don't need to look anyway. So he basically just wrote the book as is and didn't put down sources of where he got what he got from. He wanted to make it easy to read, which it is, and thereby without citing any sources, tells you exactly the whole thing from beginning to end. The Rambam also wrote some very daring works. Let's take an example. Igeres HaShmad. So the Rambam writes to this group of Jews in North Africa. This is 300-400 years before the Inquisition of Spain. But a very similar situation. There were Marranos. Those Marranos were Christian Marranos. These ones were Muslim Marranos. So the Islamic faith decided to become, between the Sunnis and the Shiites, they became radical. And there was a certain fellow over there who was a sheikh who was going around transforming the landscape. And he wanted all the Jews to convert to Islam, or otherwise get out of here. So many fled and many remained. It's very difficult to run away. So they stayed. And when you stayed, outwardly they displayed signs of Islam. Inwardly, which was a lot easier than Christianity, inwardly they remained faithful Jews. And there was a great Chacham over there who wrote to them that you guys are all Kaifrim and there's no room for you in Judaism, because Judaism demands that you die for the cause. And the Rambam takes up the cause and he says, Ma pitom, how can you say that? You know, and he fights for Jewry. He says a Jew, no matter what he is special and holy. So that language today is wonderful, right? The Rambam says, how can you ever declare about a Jew? He has an neshama, he has a soul, just because he did something, be'oines, he did it, he was forced into, he was coerced. So you wanna tell him off? I mean, maybe he was wrong, but a Jew is a Jew. That message did not resonate well in those times. They were trying to keep Judaism intact. And so again, there was this upsetness at the Rambam and his path. But probably of all the works that the Rambam wrote, the most difficult work to accept, like, how could he, was the Rambam's Guide to the Perplexed, the Moyer Nevuchim. Moyer Nevuchim. The Rambam wrote the Guide to the Perplexed. The Rambam wrote this work called Moyer Nevuchim. Now, what it is, if you read it, is a rational explanation of Judaism. So everything has to be explained in a sensible, rational, logical way. And some things are like Really? I was hoping it would be a little more spiritual than that. And the rationalists are excited. You know, the Bible critics who sit down there and try figure out all this, turn the Bible, chas v'shalom lehavdil, into a Shakespearean play in which you can have biblical critique. Well, that's what it sometimes seems like. The Moreh Nevuchim, let's take an example of what he writes. The Moreh Nevuchim explains, it's Chelik Gimel, Perek Mem Gimel, I believe. The Moreh Nevuchim says as follows. In the Beis HaMikdash, when you entered, there was always music and song. The Levim were on the steps. Shir HaMa'alos is the song of the steps. They would always be on the steps and they were singing songs and playing instruments. He says, why? Have you ever tried baking challah for Shabbos without music? Compare baking challah with music playing in the background and without music. When there's music, it changes the atmosphere in the house. The ambiance is just more, it's more welcoming, it's more warm. If there's no music, it's like you feel like, okay, you just on your own. Can you imagine the Kohanim are inside in the Beis HaMikdash and they're all the time doing this avodah. They're bringing korbanos, they're throwing blood and doing whatever, and all the stuff they're doing, and there's no music playing. So the Levim were there so that the sound in the Beis HaMikdash should be this beautiful, powerful sound. You know, in the summer I went to my kids we went to Eretz Yisrael, so I took two kids of mine. So they wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. They wanted to see, you know, there's the usual stuff, Kaisel, Iran, Kever Rachel, and the Blind Museum. Like that became the new attraction in Eretz Yisrael. Did you go? So the Blind Museum was the greatest attraction, right? And we come inside, and it was pretty impressive. Like you walk inside, the place is pitch black, completely dark. And you can't see anything. And you come inside, and you experience what it's like to see the world through blind eyes. And they take you into one room, and basically the walls are black, so there's no light coming in at all, and that's why you never get used to the dark. The dark just remains black. And you come inside, you sit down, and they play music. And it is quite phenomenal when you listen to music, when you're actually paying attention and not doing 17 other things, because you can't, because you actually have no phone with you. And when you're listening to the music, the sounds are incredible. Music really, really is powerful. It transforms your whole experience. So music is incredible. In the Beis HaMikdash, the goal was to create that powerful experience. Music and song. Good? Not so bad, right? Now the Rambam says, and why was the avodah of Ketores? Says the Rambam, the Ketores is there because we need to please all the senses. If you walked into the Beis HaMikdash, what smell do you think you encountered? In the Beis HaMikdash, you walked in, it smelled like you think like a meat store? It smelled like a slaughterhouse. Shem Yishmo, which is what it was. Because you're walking in, think of what's going on. These guys were slaughtering korbanos, like the oila and the chatas, and the oila would be burnt besides the skin, the hide. The whole thing was burnt up. Can you imagine what it's like to burn an animal completely? What smell you'll get? So there's a barbecue going on. Part of it can't be so bad. Barbecue smell is not bad. But the smell of burnt meat, like just destroying meat completely, just complete burn. There would have been a stench. It would have reeked. So Ma'osim, what do? You know, the Beis HaMikdash was appealing, physically, was incredibly appealing. But if you think about what it looked like, you know, in the Seder of describing the Seder of Akravas Korban Pesach, on Erev Pesach, that was the busiest day of the year in the Beis HaMikdash. So what happened was, every single Jew in the world, besides all the regular korbanos that were offered that day, every single Jew in the world had to offer that day a Korban Pesach. Not one for each family, fine, but that means there were a lot of korbanos, tons and tons and tons of korbanos. So what do? So they had a system, and the Mishnah describes the system. You say the Korban Pesach before you get into Pesach. You say the whole avodah. So what they did was they had, you know, in Eretz Yisrael, you walk by a building sometimes, and sometimes you can get this splatter of water on your face because someone on the second floor decided to do a sponja. The way sponja is done is you throw water all over the floor, and then you take a little squeegee and you push the water all the way to the corner, and then it goes out into the from a little hole to the guy below. That comes from the Beis Hamikdash. In the Beis Hamikdash there was a little amma, a little nachal, a rivulet flowing through the middle of the Beis Hamikdash, and there was a little stopper on the bottom. And what you did was, you took that stopper and you stopped it, and the water would fill up. So like this, the water was flowing through the Azara. What you did was, you had all over the floor blood and guts and intestines and meat and whatever else was all over there. I mean, again, can you imagine thousands of korbanos being offered? There were three shifts to do the korban Pesach. The place was a mess. So all the korbanos, everything's flowing out. What do? They would close this thing, put a little stopper, the water would fill up, sponja, get rid of everything, everything flows out, and you're good. Shalom al Yisrael, done deal. So the Beis Hamikdash was stunning, amazing. The look was this gold, incredible place. The binyan of Hordus was something you've never seen before, but you walked in, music was great, sound was great, and sight was great, but smell, terrible. Says the Rambam, that's why they did the Ketores. Avodah of the Ketores was in order to get rid of the stench that reeked in the Beis Hamikdash.
That's enough.
The Ketores was incredible. It says that the Ketores was so powerful, the smell of the Ketores was so powerful, that all the way till Yerichoi, now Yerushalayim to Yerichoi is quite a distance, many miles, okay? All the way to there, Yerichoi had a powerful smell, because Yerichoi means to smell, reach, right? But they smelled the Ketores all the way up to Yerichoi. Down to Yerichoi. So that smell was incredible, yes. In the Beis Hamikdash, when you offered the Ketores, the smell filled the entire Beis Hamikdash with a beautiful scent, morning and evening. Now, do you understand why there were many Gedolei Yisrael who were fuming at this? For example, Rabbeinu Bechaya. Rabbeinu Bechaya says, Chas v'sholem to say such a thing. He says, can you imagine Jews throughout the ages davening? How much time do you have to daven? When you're already deciding, I'm giving myself over, I'm going to daven. Okay, not just davening, I'm going to say the korbanos. That means you're really dedicated. And when you say the korbanos, you say the Pitam HaKetores, and you discuss the Ketores. You know why you're discussing the Ketores? Oh, the air freshener. Air freshener. It sounds so mundane. I'm trying to be holy. I want to get elevated. Come on, pick me up. Praise me. You're telling me that all the Ketores is an avodah air freshener. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I just don't feel any holiness. I don't feel any spirituality. I don't feel any elevation. I just feel like it's okay. Very nice. So Rabbeinu Bechaya cites a Ramban. And he says, he explains basically that the Ketores was there. Ketores, you know, the tes and the shin in Aramaic are interchangeable. When Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai passes away, his last words are, Bechad ketira itz katarna bei b'kutsha brichu. Ketira means a bond, a kesher. I'm bound to God with this oneness. I feel I'm totally connected. Bechad ketira is katarna bei. So the connection is complete. The kesher, the bond. What is the Ketores? The Ketores is that which binds a Jew to God. A Jew and God become one when he offers the Ketores. Does that sound a little more holy than what the Moreh Nevuchim is saying? Air freshener? Seriously? The Tzemach Tzedek, the Rebbe of the Tzemach Tzedek, for a couple of years, he learned certain Sfarim with his son, the Rebbe Maharash. One of the Sfarim they learned was Moreh Nevuchim. And he explained that what he was doing was washing rinsing, if you will, the Moreh Nevuchim in its Kabbalistic, deeper meaning. Because the Rambam is the Rambam. Okay? He's not a rationalist. He's the Rambam. The Rambam wouldn't write that. But the idea was, pre the days of the Arizal in the 1500s, which is 400-500 years after the Rambam, the Arizal said that mutar mitzvah legalois zois hachochem. It's permissible, it's actually a mitzvah to reveal the secrets of Kabbalah. So that the Arizal said, at what point? A few hundred years after the Rambam. In the times of the Rambam, you weren't allowed to reveal the secrets. If the Rambam studied Kabbalah, we know he did study Kabbalah. He couldn't explain, he couldn't elaborate on that which he had learned. But if you relearn the Rambam and you appreciate the depth of what he's saying, you'll see that's what he was talking about. Now, what I want to show you is that you'll see this in the Moreh Nevuchim, that we're going to see a pshat that's, oh, obviously that's what he meant. Not that I'm going to find a pshat that's imposed, that's fine, the Rambam meant something else. No, we're going to see how, out of the words, when you read the words and you actually understand what he's talking about, it's clear that it's a whole different spiritual explanation. So the pshat that goes as follows. The Rambam meant something that the Zohar says. The Kodesh, this pshat was brought by a bunch of tzaddikim, but the Kodesh Maggid. Kodesh Maggid lived in the late 1700s, early 1800s. One of the great Hasidic rabbis. He explains this pshat I'm going to tell you now, and so does in Sefer Siach Sarfei Kodesh. He quotes in the name of the great Kotzker, Rabbi Nachman Mendel of Kotzker. Now, he says like this: the Zohar tells us that there was a different purpose to the Ketores. What was it about? The Ketores had Hakadoshem samamonim, 11 spices, 11 ingredients. 10 of them, beautiful smell. The most beautiful smell you could ever imagine. They put it all together, it was out of this world. But the 11th, some. The 11th ingredient in the Ketores is called chelbena. Rashi says that chelbena was disgusting and horrendous. The smell was terrible. The smell of the Ketores was horrible. So why did they offer it? Why would you bring the chelbena into the beauty of the rest? So the explanation is because there's no such thing as fair-weathered Jews. Some Jews are revolting. Some Jews are chelbena Jews. Don't ever make a Judaism that's fair-weathered, that's only those Jews that you like. My little society, the people who are around me, the good people, the ones I want to hang out with. That guy, kick him out. Chelbena means that there's certain Jews who may disgust you and revolt you, but the guy's Jewish too. He's also there. And there's no way to get this beautiful, sweet smell to give over to God unless you incorporate them too. This Rosh Hashanah I was davening. And I must tell you, I was inspired. I was feeling really, really uplifted. So this guy comes to me on the second day. He davened somewhere else on the first day. The second day he came here. He says, the first day I felt like I was doing tshuva. I said, and the second day it wasn't tshuva? Over here, you didn't feel tshuva? He says, no, let me explain to you. And the first day there was like crying and tears, and people were really I felt like they were actually like begging God to help them. And the second day I came here, he says it was all like the simcha, everything was done out of song. And I said, yeah, because that's how you do tshuva. Who says tshuva has to be depressing? Tshuva actually should be uplifting. So in the middle of this uplifting davening, I'm saying to myself, okay, why am I feeling uplifted? Is it because the davening is uplifting? Maybe it's because of Malchus and because of something holy. I I think it's got to do with the fact that I just like the look of the shul. It looks nice, beautiful new shul. And it's nice davening with people with you in the Achdus and whatever, and it's great, it's wonderful. But did I crown God as king? Did I find room for God in my heart? Like, am I really doing something for God? Or is it just, I'm enjoying this, it's nice? Where's Malchias? Where's crowning God as king? And then the Chazan gets this piece, and he sings it. It was in Malchias, and it goes, "Vahi bishurun melech bisasef rosh hayam yachad yachad shivtei Yisrael." Pasuk in V'zayis HaBracha, which we discussed last week, I think it was. Pasuk is saying, "Vahi bishurun melech." Bishurun is Yeshurun is Am Yisrael. Vahi bishurun melech. When can Hashem be a king over Yeshurun, over you and me? Bisasef rosh hayam. When the heads of the people gather together, Yachad Shivtei Yisrael, together. There needs to be a togetherness. So what does it mean, a togetherness? It means, you want to crown God as king? Okay. Start becoming together with the other Jew. Now, together means, you got to look at the other Jew and you got to say, me and him are one. How am I going to become one with every other Jew? The answer is, because be'etzem, in truth, all of us are one body. Or one entity. And the Balatanya explains that's what it means, B'isasef Rosh Hayom. It doesn't mean when the heads of the people, all the different heads of the factions gather together. It rather means the head is this thing, this brain. When the brain gathered itself together, when you shift your paradigm, when you switch your thinking. So if I want to make God into a king, I have to shift my thinking. How am I going to shift my thinking? So what does it mean? Become one with all Jews. I said, what about the Jews that I like? It's easy to become one with. Find me Jews I don't like and become one with those Jews. And I think to myself, okay, who don't I like? And I was quick, came up with someone. I don't know why, but I kept this on my voicemail from a voicemail I once got from someone. You know, if you walk like down that way, you walk all the way up Nostrand Avenue, maybe on New York Avenue, all the way up towards Crown Heights, Williamsburg. What word, if you walk, do you think you'll encounter from all the people around? Every second word, you'll hear a certain word being uttered. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's not 4 letters. It's one of those things we don't like to say. That word is what I got on my voicemail. I would play it, but it's not my Kodesh to play the message. So this guy calls me up. At first he calls me and he curses. Whatever, long story. We built a shul and someone gave money in memory of someone and he felt the money should go to him. So I said to the guy, listen, bottom line is, I'll give the money back to the donor. But, I mean, and we're putting up a sign anyway, I'm not sure what the issue is. He's upset, he's going mad at me, crazy. And he screams at me. So he calls me up and he's screaming me on the phone. And I'm feeling insulted. I said to him, listen, if you want to talk to me normal, that's fine. I can have a conversation with you. Maybe you're right. But if you're not ready to talk normal, click. He calls me back. And then he left me these 2 messages on my phone, which were, you're a crook, I'm going to expose you, you are da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, all that. And he hurt my feelings. Comes Rosh Hashanah. I'm saying to myself, the guy's a Yid. He's a holy Jew. He hurt me, this is true. But if I'm going to make God into a king, Vahi bishurun melech, then it has to be Yachad Shivtei Yisrael. And there has to be a Beis Asif Rosh Hayom. My headspace has to think. So I'm thinking to myself, I am going to bench this guy, that he should have the most beautiful, amazing year ever. And I started, it took me a while, I must tell you. It took me a while because I initially couldn't bring myself to daven for him and to wish him well. But a few minutes worth of really thinking about it, and I say, and I'm wishing him well. Why? Because we all are the same body. We're different parts of the same body. And I might not like that part, but it's still me. It's part of who I am. And that's how you make it. This Asif Rosh Hayom, Yachad Shivtei Yisrael, we become one. So now I crown God as king. Do you see that the Chelbenah, that disgusting smell, is part of it? Sometimes Jews act disgusting. Sometimes I act disgusting. I have a virus inside me. But am I able to bring God into all Jews? So what's the avodah of the Kodesh? You want a sweet smell in the Beis Hamikdash? You want a beautiful smell? You know what you have to do to get that sweet smell? You have to offer 10 and 1. There has to be that 11th spice called the chelbana. And only when you have that, it's like, you ever smell the, what do you call it? What are those animals called? Skunk. A skunk smell, that's what I'm thinking about. That's what the chelbana was. And without that, the sweet smell would never be created. So here's the pshat. What it means, what the Rambam means to say is this. In the Beis Hamikdash, they offered korbanos. And what's the avodah of korbanos? Why do we offer korbanos? Korban means not sacrifice. The literal translation of korban means karov, to get close. Adam ki yakriv mikem korban Hashem means you're the korban. You're not supposed to offer an animal. We don't relate to what animals are. What you're supposed to do is bring yourself as a korban to Hashem. That means you want to get close to God. How do you get close to God? Well, we daven and we learn and we do avodas Hashem. But there has to be that the animal gets offered to Hashem. What does that mean? So you ever seen animals inside you? Look, an ox, what's the ox? He gores, he's running and he's goring. The ox inside you? You ever felt the ox? Yeah. I want to get like this craving. I need to get this. Maybe it's like, for someone who's pregnant, ice cream sometimes. Or the addiction. How about the shepsele? The little sheep, meek. I'm depressed. There's so many different animals that we have. And all the animals, all the different types have to be channeled and offered on the mizbeach for God. They all have to be brought close to God. And there's also salt. And there's different spices and the wine and sometimes the water and sukkahs. And there's the flour. All that is how to make your life holy. Bring God into your life, into your physical life. That's the avodah of korbanos. What the Rambam is saying is that after the avodah of the korbanos was finished, the place reeked. That's what he says. Why do you think it reeked? Why did it smell? So we thought it was because the korbanos made a bad smell. No, here's the spiritual explanation. The reason it smelled was because they were bringing all Jews close to God, but some Jews weren't figuring this out. For example, the Mizbeach doesn't atone for murder. B'mezid, the only way to atone is death. Avodah Zarah, the skila, sefer, hereg, and chenek, there's affairs which the Mizbeach cannot atone for. Korban chatas was for a shoygeg. If you inadvertently sin, the Mizbeach was able to take care of all the Jews who are within the fold. But some Jews go out of the fold. Some Jews escape. Those are the Chelbana Jews.